And Belinda Adhiambo is our sign language interpreter. Several experts, including the Controller of Budget and the Auditor General, have raised concerns over the establishment of 5 trillion Kenya shillings National Infrastructure Fund. In a statement submitted before the National Assembly's Finance Committee during stakeholders' engagement on the Bill 2026, Dr. Margaret Nyakang'o's office says the fund has been established as a corporate entity and not a public fund, thus making it prone to abuse. She also questioned the legality of excluding her office from authorization of withdrawal and expenditure of the proceeds. Other financial institutions have also questioned the governance and institutionalization of the fund, insisting that it should be managed by an independent entity and not the National Treasury. Seth Olale followed the proceedings and filed the following report.
Various stakeholders and experts are raising concerns over the legal and oversight framework of the 5 trillion shillings National Infrastructure Fund. Controller of Budget Margaret Nyakang'o, through a written submission presented to a committee of the National Assembly, questioned the basis of establishing the fund as a corporate entity and not a public fund under Section 2(4) of the Public Finance Management Act. The Office of the Controller of Budget says the bill is ambiguous and does not address the applicability of the PFMA Act, how it will be oversighted by the Controller of Budget, and who authorizes withdrawals and expenditure. In addition, Controller of Budget Margaret Nyakang'o says the National Infrastructure Fund Bill 2026 does not explicitly provide for the exclusion of money from the consolidated fund. Therefore, the proceeds must first be deposited into the consolidated fund before being transferred to the Infrastructure Fund, a concern also raised by the Institute of Public Finance.
But then, for example, if we were to privatize KICC, for example, how will we determine if that money will go into NIF or it will go to the consolidated fund?
In its submission to the National Assembly Finance Committee, the Institute of Certified Public Accountants of Kenya, ISPAC, stated that the 5 trillion shillings National Infrastructure Fund should be managed by an independent entity in order to enhance credibility and transparency.
An independent statutory oversight body to supervise the National Infrastructure Fund to enhance credibility, transparency, and fiscal discipline.
In calling for the amendment of the bill, the Office of the Controller of Budget, the Institute of Public Finance, and ISPAC recommended that the bill provides authorization of withdrawals by the Controller of Budget, integrate the fund fully into the budget cycle, quarterly and annual reporting of the fund's performance to the Controller of Budget, and clarify the governance and regulatory framework applicable to the fund.
And here we suggest strengthening the governance, transparency, and accountability by establishing an independent board, professional management, and robust reporting and audit mechanism to build investor confidence.
So the absence of clearly articulated offenses and penalty provisions tailored to the operational realities of the fund creates a structural vulnerability, leaving enforcement to general statutes that may not adequately address the specific risks associated with the NIF.
The bill does not address the exit strategies of the investments that the fund has entered into, including the investment horizons or the reinvestment of proceeds.
While Clause 24 2G requires the Cabinet Secretary to prescribe standards and procedures on the management of conflict of interest, this applies only to project-level conflicts during investment selection and not conflicts of interest that the Cabinet Secretary may personally have in relation to specific projects.
The National Infrastructure Fund Bill 2026 has undergone its first reading in Parliament, even as it returns to the House for the second reading next week, ahead of public participation. Seth Olale, Citizen TV.